All right, probably my best work yet.
Dad, don't turn on the radio.
Which channel?
Any channel.
Reports are coming in all over. Dead cases have risen from the grave and are wreaking havoc on court dockets everywhere. Scientists speculate that someone may have practiced the dark arts of civil procedure without a law license.
735 Ilsis 1401.
Residents are urged to seek shelter. We will stay on the air as long as we can.
What is it?
The Talisman of Due Diligence. May God help us all.
Sorry we rose all those cases from the dead.
It happens. Hello again, I hope you're all doing well in this special Halloween edition. I know you're all thinking, where the is the relocation guide? Well, in no particular order, my son broke his finger, my computer donked out, and I've had more work now than I've ever had as an appellate lawyer, ever. But it is here, finally, covering 16 relocation decisions in the last year or so. And without further delay, let's get to today's roundup. 1401s, the machination that allows us to undo bad judgments, provided it's filed within 2 years. Now, one often overlooked component to a 1401 is this concept called due diligence, which is the theme of my selected 3 cases for today. And if you stalk this channel, well, you already know the Talisman of Due Diligence can defeat any vacatur effort, even if there's a pinch of fraud involved. Now, my first of 3 covers what isn't due diligence. Now here, per the parties' divorce settlement, Dad was supposed to give Mom 100% of a specific retirement that everybody thought was worth $300,000, but it turns out it's actually worth $440,000. And as soon as Dad realizes this, he blocks the cash out and files a 1401 saying, mutual mistake, I want a do-over. Now the judge was pretty cool about this, but the appellate court, not so much. And they reversed the judge's granting of the 1401, noting that at the hearing, no evidence was put on by the ex-husband, aside from the affidavit that he had kind of stapled to the petition. And worse, as the appellate court points out, this is Dad's retirement account, not Mom's. He had access to all the statements, and it turns out that had he read them just a little bit closer, the true value would have been known. And that's prejudgment due diligence in a nutshell. Not did you know, but could you have known if you had opened your eyes. So despite the mutual mistake, the lack of due diligence in preventing the error forces Dad to eat the $140,000 mistake. But what about post-judgment due diligence? Well, that brings us to case number 2, which is about paternity fraud for non-family law attorneys. Once you sign that voluntary acknowledgement of paternity, we call it a VAP, you have a 60-day period to rescind. But outside of that period, all you have left is a 1401 petition to vacate. Now, as we all know, fraud is an exception to that 2-year statute of limitation period. But how much fraud is needed? Well, in our next case, Mom and Dad date, have a kid, Dad signs the VAP thinking it's his. 6 years later, Dad does a DNA test on the kid, finds out it's not. Mom swears, based on who she was with the time, that not Dad was the most likely candidate to be the dad, but admits there were other men. Despite insisting Mom fraudulently concealed this, thus excusing Dad from that 2-year statute of limitations period under 1401, the trial court says, I'm not undoing this, and the appellate court affirms, noting fraud boils down to 1, the other side making efforts to hide the truth from you, despite 2, you making reasonable efforts to discover the truth. Here, Mom didn't care whether Dad was or wasn't Dad, which isn't the same as taking steps to conceal it, like objecting to a DNA test. Now, should Mom have been more open about who she was inviting to her bedchamber? Well, morally, probably, but legally, it's well settled in Illinois that silence alone is generally not fraudulent concealment. But what if Dad had filed his 1401 within that 2-year period? Could it have ended differently? Our last case isn't 100% on point with that question, but it's a good example that even filing within 2 years doesn't mean you've shown due diligence. In Stallone, not that Stallone, the plaintiff stopped coming to court. Case is DWP'd, and according to the plaintiff, the reason she didn't file her 1401 for nearly 2 years after was due to her old age and incompetence by her counsel, at least at the time. By the way, the lawyer that she claimed was incompetent actually withdrew before the DWP was entered, and more so, case law in Illinois requires a litigant keep track of their case, which she didn't, so the judge in the appellate court said,
"Not today."
Because the 2-year time limit to file is not the same as being allowed to wait 2 years before filing. And we don't have a precise time limit on how long the delay can be from the time the person discovered something was wrong to when they filed. We have some decisions that have held that 2.5 months was too long, while others were cool with someone sitting on it for 3 months. That's because the judge has a lot of leeway here, and in my experience, any delay beyond what's reasonable for an attorney to verify the veracity of their client's claims can be a bit risky. But again, it is often up to the judge. Okay, before I go and eat a ton of candy, the Vacatur guide. If we hit that 50 like threshold like before, if we do that before Thanksgiving, I will devote the turkey break to finishing the Vacatur guide, which will cover 21 decisions from 2024. And ideally, it will drop the last week in November. The last video, we somehow hit like 80 likes, which is a channel record. I gotta admit here, we're gonna be really hard pressed to top that, but who knows. Finally, if you like these videos, which come out, as you can tell, when they come out, stalking is really the best and only way to get a heads up. So there you go. Anyways, that's all I have. As always, happy Halloween.